Hello everyone. Today I'm going to give you my preliminary impressions of Executioner's Sword and the upgraded repeater handgun for Kruber. Let me just say that both of these weapons are monstrous. I would not be surprised if they both define what it is to be Kruber going forward. Executioner's Sword combines most the control of a two-handed hammer with even more damage than the two-handed sword, and it solves the biggest weakness of two-handed sword, armor damage. It's a joy to play. It's so satisfying to get those head chunks, just head chop all day. It cracks me up. And you can really grow to master the sword. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of time, and I'm really looking forward to playing more of it. All right, let's hop in. Light attack is the cleave. It has a 4 attack chain, right to left horizontal, left to right, right to left upward slope, left to right downward slope. Each attack hits infinite targets. The first takes 3 damage, the next 4 take 1.25, and everything else takes 0. The damage comes from its insane headshot multiplier of 5. That means the first target can take 15, and the next 4 can take as much as 6 damage each. As you can see here, with even a moderate amount of practice, you'll be headshotting 1 or 2 targets per cleave, making sure you kill about 1 rat. I'd say you do about 2 to 2.5 rats worth of damage per swing into density, all the while providing moderate hit stun on every target you hit. Combined with the two-handed sword level of dodge, just enough dodge to allow you to dodge dance, you will be extremely safe versus hordes, cleaving down everything with impunity. It's a blast. Let's talk traits for just a moment. Bloodlust is probably preferred here, but Regrowth Normal is pretty good. Berserking and Swift Slaying Normal are both fantastic. The third slot, whether it be a Devastating Blow or a Stamina trait, I can't tell you what's ideal right now. I have Endurance. I like it because it allows me to keep doing a little bit of dodge dancing with the occasional panic block as necessary. I think it fits well with the weapon. Two-handed Sword, its closest competitor, has one other weakness. Moving with pace. In other words, how fast can you get through 1 or 2 rats? This weapon can headshot and you can look like a boss and just cleave through everything like here, or you can look like an idiot. It gets into your guard and it takes 4 swings to kill a single rat. I think with a lot of practice you're going to look like a boss more often than not though. So we have a horde coming up, so let's talk about handling hordes with this weapon. Depending on the setting, you can sit your butt in the corner and rely on the incredible control this weapon offers to keep you safe. Or if you can't put your butt in a corner, you can do a little bit of dodge dancing to circle around the horde and keep yourself safe that way. Both are viable, which is fantastic news, especially because the new maps are so open in many places. This weapon really benefits from speed pot. Strength's okay. They're both fine. So here we go, look at this. Just cleaving. My guess is that with cornering in a position like over to the right, where you would have a 90-degree arc to worry about, you probably wouldn't take this incidental damage, but with all the bloodlust procs you're going to get, it's not too big of a deal regardless. I'm always reluctant to put myself in a corner, because it means you have less options against a Storm Vermin who comes in, a Packmaster, or an Assassin Rat. It's going to take considerable practice to keep your head swing high enough to go for those headshots. Considering coming from weapons like hammer and two-handed sword, we've never had a two-handed weapon before that was also a finesse weapon. And of course, the higher you aim, the more likely you are to miss a rat and take a hit. But with this weapon, the trade-off is so high that we're going to have to learn to headshot with two-handers. Let's talk about Repeater for a little while. It has an 8 base damage against unarmored, 4 against armored, 24 against resistant with a 1.5 multiplier. It has 2 penetrations, so 3 targets total against normal, and it'll penetrate 1 armor or 1 resistant. So what are the implications of those numbers? Against clan rats, it's not too hard to headshot, and I'm sure again with practice that you can get pace with this weapon. In other words, you could clear things quickly by one-shotting the sword and one-shotting with your repeater on the move. It also has a very quick reload time, and with extended mags it has 12 shots per clip, so you can get a lot of firepower constantly without too much downtime. Against armored targets up close, it's not hard to unload 5 shots to the chest, that's 20 damage, and then 5 shots to the chest of a second rat in a single clip, and then do a quick reload. We now have an up-close option to panic spam down a storm vermin when we don't have time to cleave them. You can 2-shot a Packmaster, 1 shot for a headshot, and it does considerable ogre DPS. I'll post something later this week after I've done a good run with it. You can see an ogre in rather than slice it here, but just trust me on this. You'll spam down ogres nice and pretty. Here we're showing off the 1 target penetration and considerable storm vermin damage. It's easy. You can solo patrol with your melee weapon or with your ranged weapon now without too much trouble. It's pretty disgusting. So let's see. It's also a solid option for sniping specials from range. The biggest issue you're going to have is sniping out assassins, which take 3 body shots. It's kind of tough to hit, but I think once you get used to it, it'll be easy. I'm used to using zoom to get those precise shots. For precision, you just left click, and if they're up close, you can right click and then spam 3-4 shots in quick succession, as you've seen me do a couple times. So this next scene is historically troublesome for most combos, because you have to DPS through hordes, deal with the occasional special spawn, and kill somewhere between 2 to 5, sometimes even 6 storm vermins. So I'm used to taking it kind of slowly and patiently and picking them off. But this weapon has so much monstrous DPS that honestly I probably could have just waded into it without too much trouble. Let's talk traits for Repeater for a second. A quick random note, there are 2 mastercrafted for this weapon. Attack speed 15% and reload speed 25%. The reload speed seems to be much better. I really like extended clip, or whatever it's called. It gives you 50% bigger clip and extra ammo, which gives you 30% more ammo. Other interesting traits to consider would be Scavenger, especially combined with Rupture, which would give you a horde option. I don't know if it's necessary for this combo, but it would be interesting. As always, for more interesting and useful discussion on weapon trait selection, there's that long Reddit thread. It's been around for a while. And people keep updating it, so I'd go there. That's my first place to go to when I'm looking at a new weapon. So right there and right here as well, we can see how the Repeater solves the weakness of the 2-handed sword. You can just spam down storm vermin like it's no one's business and control the 1 or 2 rats that come with it. It's fantastic. Again, you can get 2 kills per clip, and the dodge is okay on it. It's just as good as your sword, so you can get the space you need with a quick back dodge. I would say this weapon combo has 2 major weaknesses. It doesn't have a ton of mobility or stamina, and its control is solid, but it requires you to continuously attack. And continuously attacking does a huge amount of move speed slow. You're very slow when you're attacking with this weapon. So the net result is it's hard to safely reposition under any competitive pressure. And second of all, it's very weak against objectives. That overhead bash does 10 damage, and it's slow as balls, and that's your best option. So here we go. I make a little mistake. I don't know why I made this twice in the same run. And now I'm surrounded and I have to make a decision. It's hard to reposition. Honestly, what I should have done right there is just corner up. This weapon has so much DPS and control that trying to run away is probably a bad deal. And this of course means it's going to be very hard to handle Ogre plus Horde. That's going to be this weapon's fail condition more often than not, my guess. Though Assassin plus Horde is going to be hard for the same reason. So while we have a little bit of time, let's talk armor damage. So in Vermintide, there's a mechanic for damage against armor. If you have 0 damage against armor and you score a headshot, it does your headshot multiplier's worth of damage, which as we discussed is 5 for this weapon. So what's really interesting is this weapon will do armor damage of 0, in other words 5, your headshot multiplier if you hit it, on your first, second, third, fourth, or fifth target. That means unlike weapons like one-handed sword, two-handed sword, yada yada yada, where you have to hit the storm vermin basically first with your charged attack if you want to do any damage, as long as you hit a headshot, the storm vermin can be the 5th target you cleave. So what you're going to want to do is cleave the rest of the density and then storm vermin hit last for a 5 damage headshot, so 4 to kill. If you have the space, instead you can wind up your charge attack. It doesn't do extra damage for charging it. I don't actually know what the reason to charge it is yet. If anyone knows, let me know. I guess maybe just to time it. But you'll do 7 if you hit him anywhere, 14 if you hit him in the head. It's actually pretty tough to headshot. I have to aim like in the sky, and then I can't really see their head. Again, it's learnable. So after you spend probably a dozen hours with this, and you won't even notice anymore what you're doing. So probably 2, but realistically 2.5 shot for Storm Vermin. All in all, the charged attack on this weapon is pretty weak, but it's almost irrelevant. It's good for what it does. So right here, I tend to play pretty conservatively and pull Storm Vermin. I've played a couple runs with this weapon after, and I've stopped playing conservatively at all. I just run at them. It's absurd, because I can kill the 4 clan rats and the X Storm Vermin 1 at a time, 2 at a time, 3 at a time, and it's not that big of a deal. So there you go, headshot. And if at any time I'd felt threatened, I could have just taken out my repeater and blasted 1 or 2 of them away. So let's talk resistant damage. It does 12 base with the 5x multiplier, so you can cleave down ogres for 60 damage a pop, and those headshots are easy to get. So it's actually got pretty good ogre DPS, surprisingly. Also, you one-shot a Packmaster. The charged attack only does 30, so with a 2x multiplier. That means that even if you hit the Packmaster with it, unless you headshot, you don't kill in one shot. So I'd probably try to light attack it if I was going to try to one-shot it instead of just going for the dodge. And it's not better against the ogre either, because it's slower. The bottom line for that is use the light attack against resistant targets. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to give my preliminary thoughts on where we're going with Executioner's Sword and with Kruber balance, and a couple other random thoughts along the same vein. What we're going to have to figure out for this weapon is what's optimal. Are we going to want to be holding out or dodge dancing under most circumstances? Are we going to want to skip the third attack, that upward sweep? Because upward sweep is the hardest thing to headshot with in the game. Downward sweep is much easier. It's hard not to hit a shoulder with upward sweep. Oh, by the way, do you notice how high I have to aim to try to get a headshot with this thing? Another very strong point about this weapon I forgot to mention is you can cancel your attack at any time with the block. Not being able to do that with the glaive is one of its glaring weaknesses. Alright, back on topic. Another major fork in the road is going to be whether or not we want more push in our optimal trait setup and playstyle. Are we going to want to improve pommel, death blow over some other options? Lastly on the topic, are we going to learn some better, easier ways to headshot when things get too close? Are we going to end up with some kind of weird ways of swigging? I'd be very interested if people have ways they tend to aim when rats get close to headshot, because if I miss the first 1 or 2 and they get near me, I have a tough time finishing them, and then I look sloppy as hell. So let's talk Kruber balance now. I talked about two-handed sword a lot. I really enjoyed playing with it the last couple weeks. With this weapon out, I don't see a reason to use two-handed sword, because it solves the big issues I had with two-handed sword, which were armor, and again, armor. Now we have a weapon that does both fantastically. So it's a little unfortunate it doesn't really have a home right now, in my opinion. For players getting into the game, there can be a lot of home for it, though, because it has those nice diagonal sweeps, and you're not trying to headshot. It does considerable damage no matter where you aim, so I can see it for that reason. I also can see it for Death Wish with a Killing Blow-based build, but beyond that, I don't see the home. Very interested if anyone has any other ideas on the topic. The jury's out on how Two-Handed Hammer is going to fit with this weapon around. It has a lot of control, infinite targets, does plenty of armor damage, and as a plus, absolutely destroys masses of rats. Two-Handed Hammer does all of those things except for the last one, so they're somewhat fighting for the same slot, and I'm not quite sure where the relative balance between the two is. I really like Two-Handed Hammer. The improvement to its light attack, so you can one-shot rats, is fantastic. I think Nez had a fantastic suggestion over on the forums, which is that the heavy attack should do 1 damage to absolutely everything it hits. I would augment that. I would also change its heavy attack perhaps, so that if it hits a Storm Vermin anywhere, it stops, but it does full Storm Vermin damage. That would make it a really unique weapon, a weapon that absolutely excels at whittling down and controlling huge numbers of rats. I really like what they did with the Repeater handgun. Handgun still has a great place and its unique identity, and Repeater now has one too. So good job Fatshark for that. So let me do a little comment on this bit right here. This is where I learned to stop trying to fight it and learn to love this weapon. I wanted to kite through here like I normally do, but you're slow, you don't have a lot of control, blah blah blah. And then I realized, oh wait, I have a fucking executioner sword and just went to town on this whole horde like it was nothing. If you're looking for a setup that can just, regardless of what's in front of you, go in and go to town, this is the one. So I hope you guys have a lot of fun. DLC is awesome. Thanks, Fat Shark, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.